Karl Case is a professor of economics at Wellesley College, co-creator of the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index. Chip, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here, Kathleen.
So tell us the highlight of the report. It looked like home prices actually were rising in a few cities, but they're still falling in a lot more.
Yeah, it is. If you take out and look at Florida, Phoenix, actually the two Florida cities, Tampa and Miami, Phoenix and Las Vegas, prices are still falling like a rock. Those are places that got completely glutted. Then you look at California, it's close behind. But then there's the rest of the country. And in the rest of the country, things seem to be stabilizing, at least a little. I mean, they're still falling. There's still a lot of auction sales going on. But in fact, if you look at Boston, it's been 3 years since it started on the downtrack. And it's now 5 months of slow but steady stabilization.
In terms of the role that foreclosures are playing in your overall index, even in some of these city index, we know that the foreclosed homes are selling, what, at maybe 60% of a regular priced home. Is this kind of badly skewing your number and maybe giving a picture that is more dire than the real picture?
Well, you have to look at the underlying areas, and there are two processes going on. One is traditional sales, where a seller has a property, they put it on the market, they hold out, and there's bargaining that goes on. It takes a while to do a deal. And then there's the banks and the institutions that have this foreclosed property, whose objective it is to get it off the books. And so they don't shop around for buyers. They put it on the market, auction, and those prices are lower, but they're part of the market. Somebody's coming in and buying them, laying out hard cash. And if you have to reduce it to one number, they belong in. In fact, what you ought to be looking at is different areas and different you have to look at the sub-indexes to understand what's really happening.
Okay, so what are the most important sub-indexes we should be looking at?
Well, I mean, you want to look at the areas where there are a lot of foreclosures. In some states like Arizona, it's up in the 70% of the sales are auction sales. In other states, it's down around 5 or 10. A lot of states, it's quite low. But so looking at the number of auction sales will tell you something about how the area is likely to recover and when. I mean, it's not until we get those cleared out of the system that we're going to really see any sustained rise in prices and stabilization.
And what about seasonality? Because, you know, July is a real lull kind of month. But, you know, families and the kids are finishing school. They look at homes if they're thinking of moving. They look again in August before school starts. Is this maybe not the month that's most typical of what's going on in the housing market right now?
Well, there is seasonality. It's more than I used to think, and I've looked at it in some detail now. Prices tend to come up in the spring a little bit relative to the other parts of the year. But we're now into July. The numbers we're looking at that were released today are numbers for the month of July. And there, July tends to tick down a little bit. So, in fact, the world is probably a little more optimistic than we painted in July. Back in June and April and May, that seasonality was really kicking in. So I don't think it's a big factor in what we show this month. And by the way, the fact that it's a record decline, that's year over year. And most of that decline came in the end of 2007, the beginning of 2008. So we really are sort of gently coming down outside of these areas where there's still lots of auctions, Phoenix, California, and Florida.
You know, Chip,
the scary thing.
Go ahead.
The scary thing about California and Florida is that California is 25% of the value in the country. And when you add Florida's 7% to that, it's a third of the value being determined by a fairly small portion when we think about the country as a whole.
Even before this global credit crisis develops, and we see money markets virtually frozen, depending on what part of you're looking at it. We had heard it was hard to get a mortgage, and the traditional standards are back, and you need better credit, and you need a down payment, you need all kinds of things you didn't need. So is the credit crisis going to make it even harder? Is mortgage credit going to really dry up now? Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a real problem. You need credit to have any kind of demand in the market at all. And mortgage rates are up a substantial amount, 300 basis points I heard people talking about. So it's tough. And if credit really dries up to the housing sector, then this problem is a bigger problem than we thought we had. And we thought we had a big problem. Are you seeing signs of that? Is this something you're worried about it is going to hit and make things worse, or is there any?
No. It's happening now. I mean, but it's anecdotal. I don't know of any statistics on the number of people turned down from work. But if you talk to people on the street, in the mortgage companies, in the industry, in the home building industry, they have a big problem with people who want to buy, who have the resources and income to buy, but who can't get credit.
You know, a paper you published just a few weeks ago, Chip, you said that you expect home prices to continue to fall well into 2010, if not longer. How much more?
No, I said other.
Go ahead.
Other people expect them to fall well into 2010. I'm the optimist. I think they're going to start to bottom out in 2009, unless this recession gets very, very bad. And if this recession gets bad, then all bets are off. But there are forecasters, including my partner Bob Schiller and Mark Zandi at economy.com, who are really talking late 2009 for anything and well into 2010.
So how much more do you see prices falling?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I mean, it depends whether you're if you're in Florida or Phoenix or California. I mean, it just depends on how quickly you can get this paper through the market to get things stabilized. I think they may have stopped falling in a good part of the country already.
Well, what about the bailout plan, the emergency economic assistance, the buying troubled assets plan? Will it help housing? Does something more targeted need to be done for housing?
Well, you've got to get buyers, and that means credit. So the bailout at least is designed to get credit flowing again. And the other is the process of getting these properties that are already foreclosed or are going to be foreclosed back in the system. Get them sold, get them cleaned out of the inventory, get people connected again, and prevent, if you can prevent foreclosures. We've had 4 or 5 pieces of federal legislation now trying to get the FHA involved, trying to get Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac involved. And the sooner that happens, the sooner we get these things through the system, the better off we're going to be. That's the wrinkle. It's really the speed of the legal process that's slowing a lot of this down.
All right.